Ladies and gentlemen, we've all been waiting for. We are honored and delighted to introduce Mr. Dave Cross.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Dave.
How you
You're
doing?
very welcome, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us today.
Well, it is my pleasure, and happy Sunday to everybody. And it's great to be
Yeah.
with you. I've heard about this group for a very long time,
Oh,
so it's
excellent.
nice to finally be here and see everybody's faces. And I
Yeah.
apologize for my look today. This is my Sunday look, so since it's Sunday, this is what you get.
Don't worry about it, Dave. Don't worry about it. we're so happy that you were able to come and to make it here because we know that you're one of the hardest working men in show business in terms of smooth jazz. You've got your finger in so many pies. You run a restaurant, spaghettinis. You play music. You support artists. You support a charity. You do so many things, the jazz cruises, etc. So we're really honored and privileged to have you in our midst today. And that's great. And thanks to Janice as well for facilitating this interview. We know that time is very tight, so we'll be very quick. Just very quickly, we know that you recently got a new album out that you did with Corey Wong. Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, it's not yet out. It actually will come out on Friday.
Was it on Friday? Is it all right? Okay,
Yeah, we've released a
great
couple
stuff.
of singles from it so far, and the response has been really good. But this is a total this is a totally different sound for me. I've done
Yeah,
over the last because I've been doing this for so long. My first record came out in 1990, so
right.
it's last year in the fall was my 30th anniversary of doing this, which I can't even believe because in so many ways I still feel like a young person, even though I'm
Yeah,
58 now. But so at this point in my life, I'm very much looking for new projects to kind of push my creativity. And Corey, who's this incredible Minnesota-based funk guitarist, young guy, he's in his early 30s, and he kind of sought me out. He's part of a band, a very famous band called Wolfpack that
right.
is known the world over and amazing music. And the cool thing about Wolfpack and Corey is that they're making uh, what we would call smooth jazz, but it's sort of for an audience of 20-year-olds. And these are young people that are just freaking out over instrumental music, which is amazing. So I was very interested in finding out more, and Corey and I became friends after we met. And we just started talking and playing together and writing songs. And the next thing you know, we have an album together. And we recorded it in the pandemic last fall. Somewhere, I think it was right after Labor Day of 2020 in Minnesota with a full band in the studio. We recorded it and videoed all the sessions live. So we were not only playing the music, but also filming ourselves while doing that, which was uh, terrifying for me because I was just trying not to be the one that made it. We had to do it again, you know. So, but I'm so proud of the record that we made and how it came out. And as of this Friday, it'll be available to hear the whole thing. And we're doing a big live stream on Saturday
Hmm.
from a houseboat in Minnesota, playing the whole album live on June 12th. So lots of excitement, and I love this new music too.
Well, it's quite interesting actually because you actually, I mean, with the pandemic and all that, everybody was sidelined and at home and nobody could do anything. But you were able to actually get together with Corey and the rest of the guys. I think it was a full 10-piece band with horns and the whole works basically, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
and it was interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because this was in the fall of last year, so if you remember, it was a very different time. I mean, I know we have people from all over the world here.
yeah,
At least in the United States, it was a very, very intense time with the pandemic and COVID. And so we were all masked up the whole day, until it was time to go to make a take. So when the
yeah.
record button went on, took our masks off, we played, and then that take was done. Back to masks. It was like having another layer of something to really think about, other than just normally when you're just in the studio, you're just thinking about music. This was a different experience altogether.
Fabulous stuff. Fabulous stuff. You also did some stuff with Bob James, and it was a virtual thing that you did some time ago. Was it a new day or something like that? Was it?
Yeah, the New Day was the album. Strangely enough, because I don't really make albums too often, but during the pandemic, I ended up making two records, two full albums. The first of which came out in the fall of last year, October, called A New Day, and
Yeah,
that was really all new music, but it was kind of like a 30th anniversary album for me, going back to a lot of the producers and co-writers and collaborators that I've had in
yeah.
the past, like Jeff Lorber and Rick Braun, Darren Ron, and we had some wonderful guest artists, including Brian McKnight and David Sanborn. I got a chance to make a duet, write a song, and make a duet with David Sanborn, who is my number one saxophone idol. And then also, as you mentioned, Bob James, who I've loved so much my whole entire life. We've never really recorded on one of my albums together. So, and the whole thing was done virtually. As you mentioned, it's like we would send tracks. We even wrote the album virtually. So I would work with a producer like Jeff Lorber, and we would be sending ideas back and forth via email and writing songs that way. And then we would get the songs produced, and then we would send the tracks to people like Bob James, who would put their parts on, and that's how we made this whole record. So when you think about it, when I listen to it, it sounds like we made it during another time, but there again, it was like that other added layer of how do we do this in a pandemic? How do you make a record in a pandemic?
Right,
But
right.
somehow, I'm very grateful we figured it out.
Yeah, and you did very well. Apparently, Bob James played a prank on you at some point. Do you remember that? Do you want to tell us all about
Yeah, that's funny that you should know that.
that?
So we wrote this. I wrote this song and I sent it to him.
Yeah,
No, no, no. This was even before all of that. I had played this melody. This is the very beginning of the pandemic. So I think it was like March or April of 2020. And I
right.
had written this song called Long Goodbyes. I didn't even have a title for it then.
Yeah,
And so on a little Facebook Live that we were doing, I played the melody and then I sent it to a good friend of mine named Sandy Shore,
yeah.
who was putting up on her website, smoothjazz.com, she was putting up these little sort of musical postcards from artists just to say,
Hmm.
hang in there during this pandemic, scary times, but the music will get us through. So I played this song. She put it up there. Bob James, I guess, saw it, and then she asked Bob James to do one, and he sat down at the piano, straight faced, and said, "I'm going to play a song for you right now. I just wrote it. It's so new, it doesn't even have a name." And he sits down at the piano, and he plays my song like perfectly, and he added all because I'm just playing the saxophone. He added all the harmony, and it was
Yeah,
really rich.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then I'm watching this, right? Because
Mm.
Sandy sent it to me. She said you have to watch this, and I'm watching this, and my jaw's on the floor, and I'm saying, "Oh my God, this is one of my main mentors in all of life who was just stolen from me. How dare he?" So he gets up at he finishes the song. It's absolutely beautiful, and he gets up and he looks at the camera and he says, "I'm sorry, I can't keep going with this charade. That's not my song. I did not write it. I wanted to write it. I wish I wrote it, but it belongs to Dave Koz." And he sent it to me, and I saw it here, and I loved it so much that I had to make it my own, at least for that moment. So then I called him, and I said, "Bob, I'm sorry, but this is your own doing. You have to play on this song now. There's no getting out of it." So
No getting out of it.
that collaboration happened.
And that's how it happened.
Yeah.
Interesting, very interesting. He's a lovely guy. I've met Bob James three. I've seen three of his concerts. I've met him on a one-on-one once when he came to London. But he's the godfather of smooth jazz anyway. I mean,
There
the
is.
most sampled smooth jazz artist ever.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
wonderful, wonderful man too, and just so
yeah,
the thing that I love about, if you will, the elder statesmen of our
yeah,
genre,
yeah.
people like David Sanborn is another one, Bob
Sure.
James, these Joe Sample was as well
Yeah,
before he passed, George Duke sadly
Georgie
passed.
Duke. Yeah,
These were people that the reason why I look to them for inspiration always. I mean, when I was a kid coming up, I looked to them for inspiration, and now as a, being around for a long time, I still look to them for inspiration because of their endless curiosity. They're always curious about music and
Sure.
discovering new things and collaborating. And um, I think that the next generation is going to be like that as well. I see the younger artists that really are
Mm,
interested in collaborating, and they're also like Corey and me is a good example. There are these
sure.
young artists that are interested in the people who came before them and learning from them. So I think that that's a really good thing. But that sort of was set in motion by people like Bob James, that endless curiosity and the desire to learn and keep learning even in your 70s and 80s.
Sure. Yeah. So how did it all begin for you? Because apparently, you were part of your brother's band or something at some point. And then I think you actually started playing drums and piano, but that didn't work out. You were too good for it. That you had to move.
No, I was not good for it.
Now I'm just winding
Uh,
you up. I'm just winding
but
you
I like that you've done your research. Yes,
up.
I grew up in Los Angeles. I'm in Los Angeles right now. I was born and raised here, and
Yeah.
my parents moved to California from where they were born, which is a place called Winnipeg,
Hmm.
Manitoba, Canada,
Canada.
where the weather in the winter is like minus 30 degrees
Wow.
below zero, that kind of stuff. So when my parents got married, they decided to go to a warm place. They came to California. My brother and sister and I were born and raised here. And piano, my mom was very musically inclined. She encouraged us all to take piano lessons. I hated it, and I rebelled. Uh, and I said, I want to take up the drum set. So my parents said, okay, well, here's some drum lessons. And
Drums.
I've
Yeah.
been doing
Go
that for
ahead.
about,
They
what was that?
said, go ahead and do the
Yep.
drumming.
And I remember a drum lesson that my dad came to pick me up at, where the drum teacher was right there and I was right there. This was after the lesson, and the gentleman said to my dad, he said, you might want to think about sports or something else for Dave because it's not going to happen with the drums. He's just not good. I heard it too. I mean,
You
I
heard
was
it.
right there. So I was crushed, and I didn't know what to do because I really wanted to be a musician and just have an instrument. And then in seventh grade, I was 13 years old. I picked up the saxophone
Yeah.
primarily as a way to get into my older brother's band, who was doing weddings and bar mitzvahs and fraternity parties and all
Yeah.
kinds of different things. And they didn't have a sax player, and this was in the late 70s, where there was just, if you listen to the radio at the time, every single pop song had a
Yeah.
sax solo. So if you were a pop band doing weddings and you didn't have a sax
Yeah.
player,
That's solo. Yeah.
it's not
You
good.
weren't. You
So
weren't there.
my brother said, pick up the saxophone, and I
Join
did.
us.
2 years later, I got into that band at 15 years old, and I never looked back. I never had another job. That was playing saxophone has been my job since I was 15 years old.
And what's your brother doing?
My brother had a very successful career as a composer, and
Yeah.
he wrote mostly for commercials and for television and film. And for about almost 40 years, he had a company, and he finally sold his studio
Yeah.
and his company a few years ago. And he actually works with my sister now on another business.
Okay. Not music.
No, they're not in the music business
That is
anymore.
strange because you were like you were the missing piece at the time, but now you become the cornerstone in terms of music. So I mean, you can't fault 9 Grammy nominations, 11 number one albums, a Hollywood star, Walk of whatever star or whatever, and on and on and on. You've done extremely well, and we're really proud of you. Um, Tell us a bit about how you got into the big time. How did you get in the big time with apparently you toured with Bobby Caldwell and Jeff Lorber came along. I don't know. Just you know, put us
Well,
in the
yeah,
picture.
I went to. I wasn't really sure as a youngster whether or not I would be able to make a living as a saxophonist. So I went to college, university, and I
Yeah,
went to a place called UCLA here in
yeah.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
And I graduated from UCLA in 1986.
Yeah,
And my parents, at my graduation, I had very wonderful parents, very supportive parents. They've been passed for a long
Dr.
time.
Norm.
Dr. Norm, right?
Dr.
Uh,
Norm.
and so my parents said to me on my graduation day, do you have any plan? And at this point, I had no plan. And I made a deal with them that day. I said, I'm going to take 6 months to see if I can make it happen with music.
Sure.
And if I can, great. And if I can't, then I'll figure out, I'll get another job. So 2 weeks after I graduated, I got a call from Bobby Caldwell, who you mentioned.
Yeah.
Bobby was putting together a new band, and Bobby had that amazing hit, "What You Want to Do for Love."
Yeah.
He had been sort of out of the scene for a while, and he was coming back. He was making his big comeback, and he put
Sure.
his band together. And I auditioned, and I got the gig, and I was like, I'm
Wow.
blown away because now I'm playing on a stage with Bobby Caldwell. So I'm going to tell you a really quick story about how this happened. I was a pretty shy kid growing up, and
Hmm.
Bobby, we rehearsed all this stuff, and every solo, like at the time, if you remember, every song had a saxophone solo.
Yeah.
So the first show was a double show at this club in Los Angeles called At My Place. The
At my
place
place.
was packed, sold out, solid. And I'm a nervous wreck. This is my first like legit gig, and so we're in the first show, and I'm playing the sax solos, but I'm not. I'm just playing in my space. I'm not sort of taking over the stage. So
Sure.
Bobby, at the end of the show, he says, I could tell that he's angry with me, and he says, I need to talk to you. Okay, I'm gonna get fired in the middle of
Of
the
the
two
show.
shows of my first gig because he's mad at me. So he says to me, like, "What are you doing, man? I'm moving away to the side and giving you the front of the stage for you to take over. During the
Hmm.
sax solo. Why are you staying back there in the background?" Big mistake that he said that to me because the
Big
second
mistake.
show, I was like, "Move
You
out
got
of
to
the
be out
way,
there.
Caldwell." And so he said at the end of the second show, he said, "You might want to dial it back just a little bit, but you're on the right track." But it was a great lesson for me because it showed me that there were people along the way, Bobby being the first one, and
Sure.
Jeff Lorber being the other one, that really
Hmm.
was a turning point for me because they saw something in me that I didn't even know was there, which
Was
was
there.
solo artist part of me. And without those two people and my brother, I don't think that I would be talking with all of you fine folks here today if it weren't for them.
Really? Wow.
They were very, very important in my development. So I'm very
Hmm.
grateful to all of them.
Hmm. So how did Jeff Lober, how did you get in touch with, I mean, how what was the connection with Jeff Lober? Because
It
he
actually,
actually discovered people like Kenny G as well, didn't he?
yeah, he discovered Kenny G. Kenny played in his band, the Lorber Band, for many years before getting his own deal at Arista. Boney James played in, I mean, the list of saxophone players that have played in both Bobby Caldwell and Jeff Lorber bands is a long and illustrious list.
Like a
Eric
training
Marienthal's
school.
on that list. Huh?
Training school.
Yeah,
Was it like a
exactly.
training school, was it?
So it was actually the same year, 1986.
Yeah.
Jeff saw me play with Bobby Caldwell. He was at one of those shows, and he said, "I'd like you to audition for my band." So I went over to his house, and I auditioned, and I got it. And it was the same day that he not only said, "You got the gig in my band," but he said, "I want to write some songs with you and get you your own record deal." And I thought he was smoking something. I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. What? And sure enough, we started making some demos, and those demos got me signed to Capitol Records in I think it was 1987, and worked on my first album, which came out in 1990. And here we are, all these years later, still happening. It's like
30
a
odd
fairy
years later.
tale, honestly.
Fairy
Yeah.
tale. And how did you get onto all these shows? Because you were on the Arsenio Hall show, Tonight Show, and all the other ones. What was
Well,
what's
if
the
you guys
background behind that?
remember Arsenio Hall, Arsenio, this is a long time ago, but he was such a music fan. He loves that show was really like across the board. I mean, he'd
It
have
was, yeah.
rappers and jazz artists and everything in between.
Hmm.
And I loved that show. I used to watch it all the time. And one day we tried to get on. many, many times, and they were just no, 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 no. The bookers were like, no, 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 no. And one day, the booker called my publicist and said, somebody dropped out. Can Dave be here at 2 o'clock? And it was probably like 11 a.m. in the morning.
11
My
a.m.
publicist said, he'll be there. So she called me and she said, you got to get to the Arsenio Hall show today at 2 o'clock, And I'm like, what?
You dropped everything.
I got so nervous. So I was there at 2 o'clock. That show went so well. And Arsenio said, come back next week. Come back. It was a Thursday. And he said, come back next Thursday. And I
Yeah.
did come back next Thursday. And then
Hmm.
the following Thursday, he said, come back next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Eventually, I did that every Thursday for a little over a year before I had to start going and traveling far away, so I couldn't make it back every Thursday. But for a full year, I was on that show every Thursday night, and
Wow.
it was wow, the energy in that studio. That was very, very special, and I'm very grateful for him. And I've done, as a result, a lot of the television shows here in the United States, the late night shows and the morning shows and the
Yeah.
afternoon shows. And there was a period of time where we kind of got a chance to do all of that. Not so much anymore because it's so difficult to
Yeah.
get those spots now. But there was a time when it was really a lot of television exposure. So I'm very grateful for that.
And when you were in television, you also did things like for Desperate Housewives and General Hospital and stuff like that. Am I
Yeah,
right in saying that?
my brother and I wrote the theme song for General Hospital. It's not used anymore, but it was on the air for about 10 years.
Wow.
And as a result of that, the producers would invite me on the show to usually around Christmas time to play at the hospital, to play myself in the show, which was surreal, but that was really exciting. And then there was a few other experiences, like you talk about Beverly Hills 102, 90210, and
Yeah.
General Hospital, and Urkel, Family Matters. There was a bunch of those sort of television appearances smattered over those years.
I wonder how you were able to fit everything in. Because
I
after
have,
that, I think you did your own radio show as well. You were interviewing like I'm doing. Because I watched some of your interviews and try and pick up some bits and pieces from
oh, come on.
that.
Yeah, the key, I would say that you've got it down
Yeah.
is you're a good listener. You do your homework, you're prepared, and you're a good listener. And that's the hallmark of being a good interviewer. And I continue. That's why I like doing these kinds of things because I can learn from you as well.
Okay.
And our shows, the
I'm
radio
a
shows.
rookie.
The radio shows that we've been doing for a long time. I mean, I just like being a cheerleader for the artists because there's so
Yeah.
many incredible stories that
Artist.
exist
Yeah.
here, and
So
so many
many.
incredible artists that are making unbelievable music. Getting a chance to share what they do with an audience is so important, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. And that's what we try to do on this show as well. Because this was actually birthed out of our Facebook page, which we set up about 10 years, well, 2009, which is 12 years this year, with just me to start with. And then we grew it to 5,000 plus worldwide.
Wow.
Yep.
And
We all just love,
I see all the names and I see a lot of faces here, and I can
yeah,
tell that it's people from all over the world. And I want to say thank you to all of you guys. I get so many messages from all over the world. That's the thing that's amazing. I did a Facebook Live the other day from my
yeah,
house here, and people were, chiming in from Indonesia and Uganda and
Botswana,
Nigeria and Botswana and South Africa and London, and it's just an amazing thing how global this fan base is. And even though I'm in Los Angeles, far away from many people here, I'm sure that
yeah,
are joining today, I just want you to know, from my perspective, how much I appreciate that your love and passion, not just for my music, but for all of this music. Um, like we get together and we talk about that. I was over at Rick Braun's house the other night, and we were talking about how amazing this is that our music gratefully is heard all around the world and appreciated by audiences and lands so far away and by so many different cultures.
Yeah.
And you have no idea how good that feels. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart to everybody watching and listening in today, thank you very, very much on behalf of the artist community. Thank you for your support and for all the years of showing up for us. And hopefully, when this pandemic is behind us fully, we can get back out there and play some music live for all of you. So looking
Yes.
forward to that.
Yes. We'd love you. We'd love you to come around. I understand you've been doing your Dave Cos and Friends cruises for the last sort of 15 years or more,
Yes.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
When's the next
We
one?
we've been doing the cruises for a long time. The next we had to sadly cancel 2 years, our 2020 and 2021 cruises because of COVID. But we do have a cruise that is going next year in May of 2022, and
Yeah.
it
I hope everybody's writing it down.
starts in Amsterdam, Netherlands, and then it cruises to the British Isles. So it stops in England and Ireland and Scotland and Wales, and then returns back to Amsterdam. And we just announced our lineup, which includes people like Brian McKnight and Regina Bell and Sinbad and Rick Braun and Kirk Whalum and Keiko
Wow.
Matsui, and I can go on and on and on. But if you're interested, I think that there might be a few cabins left, and you can just go to davecoscruise.com if you're interested in learning more and seeing if you might want to join us one year.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. And are you coming to London again? Because I saw you in London. I've seen you twice in London. Pizza Express Jazz Club in Dean Street. Yeah.
There's there's that place is magic. It's pure magic, and you know because you've been there. I
Yeah.
think absolutely full. It's the maximum number is 100 people in there.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
it's this tiny little, almost feels like a little cavern, a cave or something like that. It's
Very
very
intimate.
small, kind of like this feeling. But man, the nights that I've had there on stage with the audience, electric. And
Electric. Yeah.
people like Ollie Silk, who I'm sure many of
Yeah.
the listeners here today know his music because he's a great artist in this genre. But Ollie plays in my band when I go over there, and
Yeah.
Mark Cornell and Mark James
Jamal James. Yeah.
yeah, and
Thank you,
Frank
Felix.
Felix. We have so much fun when we come over there. Sadly, won't be able to get to London this year, but I'm pretty sure we'll be able to get there in 22. So
That's good.
I hope you don't forget about me.
No, we won't. We won't. You've traveled around the world doing tours and stuff. Where would you say are your top three places?
Well,
Top three.
that's that's so mean, that question. I would say doing shows. The time that I played in Cape Town, South Africa, for the first time,
Yeah.
for the Cape Town Jazz Festival, I will never
Right.
forget that for as long as I live because the the Cape Town audience sang every note of the melodies that I was playing. Like if we
Every.
played a song like "Together Again,"
Yeah.
uh, so there were 5,000 people there at that concert, and everybody was singing. This is not lyrics. They're not singing
Mm-hmm.
lyrics. They're singing melodies.
Yeah.
Every single melody that I was playing, everybody sang along. So that was maybe number one.
Everyone.
Um, I've done like the Java Jazz Festival in Jakarta,
Yeah.
in Indonesia. That's an amazing festival. And I would say that even though I live in Los Angeles, playing the Hollywood Bowl here, and for those of you who may have not been to
Yeah.
Los Angeles yet in their lives, when you do come, I highly recommend you visit that venue because
Hollywood Bowl.
it's iconic. It's absolutely iconic, and we're going to be playing there this summer. We have a summer horns show with Kirk Whalum and Mindy Aber and Vincent
Wow.
D'Angelo, and we'll be playing there with Tower of Power over
Power,
this
power.
summer. So I'm really looking forward to that. But that's one of the most special places. And I do remember also the one time I played Carnegie Hall. I was not doing my show. I was there for I just played a solo in somebody else's song at Carnegie Hall. And I remember my mom was alive at the time, and my mom flew from Los Angeles to New York to watch me play an 8-bar solo that was probably no more than 45 seconds. Flew all the way 3,000 miles just to see her son play Carnegie Hall. that little blip of music in the
Yeah,
Carnegie Hall stage. So
Carnegie Hall
I'll
is
never forget that
it's
one too.
iconic. It's
Yeah,
iconic.
that was very special.
We've got one short clip we're going to show of you,
Okay.
and you're going to tell us a bit about it. It's
Okay.
Together Again.
Okay.
So can the admin just drop that in so that Dave can see it?
Ladies and gentlemen, on the drums, Steve-O Bayard. Steve-O!
Yep. There you go.
That's a while ago because look what's happened.
I
See,
know. Yep.
that's kind of what happens when you get older.
I know, I know. 30 years in the business.
It's all good. Listen, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, but I have to go because
Yeah.
I'm going to a
Yep.
family brunch today
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
here in Los
Mm,
Angeles. But
yeah.
I so have enjoyed
Yeah.
visiting with all of you guys
That's
and
fine.
spending a
Yeah.
little time
Yeah.
today.
One last question before you disappear. If you weren't a jazz musician, what would you be?
Well, when I grew up, I always wanted to be an architect, and
Right.
'cause I
That's me.
love- are you an architect?
That's right. Yeah.
Ah. See, so you understand that math has to be a part of everything that you do, right?
Yeah.
Numbers, math.
Mm.
And once I figured that out, and I basically suck at math, I realized that dream of being an architect is never going to happen. So, but I think that the idea of building things and creating structures and creating beauty in the world,
Yeah.
that's what architects do, and that's what musicians do as well,
Sure.
building beauty and adding nice things to the world in the form of music. So we're both architects of a certain kind, I guess.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Excellent. Mr. Dave Cos, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be in touch anyway. And we wish you all the very best.
Thank you guys. Lots of love to everybody. Please be safe and take good care of yourselves, and we'll see you again very, very soon. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Be well.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye. There we have it. There we have it. Wonderful, wonderful guest, Mr. Dave Cos. I think we're gonna play another tune from him. I think it's called New Day, one of his latest songs. We're gonna share that one with you now. It's called New Day. So we've got here New Day. This is one of Dave's latest. Awesome, awesome. Mr. Dave Cos there. Brilliant guest he was. Such a humble, down-to-earth guy. Very, very accomplished. And it was just a pleasure to have him on the show. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And yeah, thanks for joining us today. Next week, we'll be having Peter White in the house. Peter White is Next week, we'll be having Peter White in the house. And Peter White is a top smooth jazz guitarist. He'll be joining us next week. So, same time, same place. Join us next.